all kind of cuisines on the high street. French, the Japanese, the pizza, the burger, the sushi, the Indian. Yet, there's no Lebanese or Middle Eastern cuisine on the high street. I really want to showcase our food and our generous hospitality to the British High Street.
Sure.
And that's where the idea was born for about 10 years before I actually started it. I was dreaming and every day about it. I was praying every day, but I was putting the hours. I thought about the food, the design, the atmosphere, the music, the team, the uniform. It's almost like different categories that are, each of them is very important. Once someone tries Lebanese or Middle Eastern food or North African food, you don't need to understand it. You just get it straight away.
It's good food.
It's good food, it's healthy, it's fresh. My team is, I feel like it's a family.
Sure.
It's my family.
Our eating habits are changing. We're demanding better dining experiences, and the food market has never been so competitive. Starting and succeeding with a food business is challenging, but some determined and passionate entrepreneurs are flourishing. These people have big dreams, big passion, and big drive. They are disruptors, change makers, and innovators. They see a positive future. Many say that food business is too risky. Some say that it has huge rewards. Are you up for the challenge? In today's episode, I sit down with Tony Kitous from Le Comptoir Libanais. Tony is an absolute legend in the hospitality sector, and he's been in London for the last 30 years or so and built a very successful empire of restaurants. He's also got a number of cookbooks. He's got a souk market he's just launched, and a range of different concepts and initiatives that have just been super successful. Really inspiring story, tons of insights and learnings, and just the sheer passion and drive and determination of Tony is just super, super inspiring. So hope you enjoy it. Sit back, enjoy. Tony Kitous. Well, Tony Kitous, great to have you on the show. Really excited. I think you're an absolute legend in the industry. So it's an absolute pleasure to sit down with you. So you were the first chef in the UK to bring Lebanese and North African cuisine into the country, which I think is amazing in itself. But why did you launch Comptoir Libanais? What was the thinking behind that at that stage?
Peter, first of all, I just want to thank you so much. I thank you and Fiona, your colleague, for going so deep, digged so deep, and it brought back the questions that I've seen that you obviously they're amazing.
Amazing.
And it brought back a lot of memories, and you've done your homework, and
great.
Yeah, I really
nice
appreciate.
Fiona would be delighted.
Yeah, no, I'm really honored to have this podcast with you.
Fantastic, great. So why then? What was the thinking behind the concept? I guess, like, what got you going at the beginning? And
look, a lot of people don't know that. They know Comptoir, they think they know the story, but Comptoir Libanais is not what I started with.
Yeah.
I started in 1993. I was like 22 years old when I opened my first restaurant. Then it was kind of modern European restaurants, and then eventually opened Levant. Yeah. Levant was one the first Lebanese and Middle Eastern restaurants I did, and then eventually all along, in my mind, I saw all kind of cuisines on the high street: the French, the Japanese, the pizza, the burger, the sushi, the Indian. Yet there's no Lebanese or Middle Eastern cuisine on the high street.
Okay.
Whoever had it, they were like more for the ethnic market.
Yeah.
And it's almost that kind of pride that got me driven. It says, like, we have so much to offer. Yeah. And you can't see it on the high street. And there's no, it's an opportunity. And second, I really want to showcase our food and our generous hospitality to the British High Street.
Sure.
And that's where the idea was born for about 10 years before I actually started it.
Okay. So it was a passion for your cuisine and then seeing a gap in the UK, essentially.
Call it passion, call it love, call it pride, call it, an opportunity.
Sure. Amazing.
Part of the big dream.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been here 2 decades now and have achieved so much success with Comptoir Libanais and other concepts. How do you feel now about that journey looking back? I get it's a big question and we'll get into it in more detail kind of stage by stage, but in general now, looking back on your journey and in particular bringing that cuisine and establishing it, creating a new category and succeeding to quite a deep extent, how does that feel to you at this stage now?
Well, it's been a long journey. My first restaurant I opened in '93. So what does that make it?
It's 25 years. So?
Almost 93, and 2000. Almost 29 years.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's it hasn't happened overnight. It's taken a long time. I think for me, it's a part of. It's always been part of the dream, and the dream gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Wow.
And I don't look and say, look, that's what I've done. No, because as I keep having, the goalpost keeps moving on.
Okay.
The dream gets bigger according to what I am, and I don't really look at it what I've done today or achieved today. I enjoyed the past. There was a lot of challenges, but I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward for the future, and I want to grow more and more.
Sure, interesting. And I think a lot of people, they kind of have an end destination in mind and kind of a vision that they want to achieve. But it sounds like you take pleasure in the journey and you realize now that it's all part of the journey. Like you said, the goalposts keep moving forward. Did you always think like that, or did you originally have kind of a destination or something you wanted to achieve?
I didn't think, just things are happening.
Yeah.
I thought at one stage before I opened my first restaurant, I was 18 years old when I said, I think I have to open my first restaurant.
Okay.
That was the only dream I had, to open my first restaurant.
Okay.
I've been, in my mind every day, I can see my first restaurant. But I think that was the dream. That's what I was dreaming until I opened my first restaurant. It's 22 years old, you open the first restaurant, you don't think at the time. But the first day I opened, I forgot about that dream of opening that restaurant, and just kept going and dreaming more and more and more. That's how I function. And I hope I will never reach the end of the destination. Because the destination is just...
Yeah, very good, makes sense, great. So let's go back then to the very beginning, I suppose. I know you grew up in Algeria in quite a large family. A lot of people we have on the podcast, they're influenced a lot by their upbringing in terms of the food and their eating and maybe their mother cooking and teaching them and so on. Tell us about your family and your relationship with food as you were growing up.
I like to think everybody has a relationship with food. I love food.
Yeah.
I love everything about food. I just eat.
Yeah.
I'm known to steal food.
Okay.
From my mom's kitchen. She turns around even before the food is ready. I just go and we used to fight about food. Grew up in a humble family and just I always tried to eat my brother's from my brother's plate before I even start eating from my plate.
Yeah.
Look, we in our culture, food is very important. We always have food at home. You never know, someone can come and you need to give them something. What has influenced me about food, I think it just happened, to be honest. I love food, and second, surrounded by my mom, by my aunts, by my grandmothers. You see them cooking all the time. It kind of, you look at, I never thought that's one thing I was going to do, no. Yeah. And I think was part of my life. Okay. And then eventually as a kid I was very young, I was about 8 years old. I used to go and sell tickets outside the football pitch as soon as I ran out of, buy them and then I sell them for a small profit. Okay. And then as soon as I ran out of tickets, I go make sandwiches and I make lemonades. and sell them on the street, on the pavement.
Oh.
I think that's how that kind of
entrepreneurial spirit.
the entrepreneurial, that relationship with food. It wasn't just food; it was food and hospitality. Even if you are in the pavement, you still, sell sandwiches and lemonade as if you had your own restaurant. You chat to them, you just, shout, lemonade, sandwiches. It's almost like, and I think that's how it really started for me.
Okay, amazing. And at such a young age as well. So what do you think drove you, to become that entrepreneur at such an early age?
The situation.
Okay.
The situation. Growing up in a very humble family.
Yeah.
My dad used to work for the government. Having different salary, we had food at home, but I was kind of, I think what I put it down is the fact that my cousins from both sides were kind of well off, and that drove me to do better, to become independent.
Okay.
And it's survival. I wanted to have some money in my pocket, even at such a young age.
Yeah.
So I think that's what gave me that drive.
Okay. Makes sense, but great experience from such.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like you always need to be out of a comfort zone, of a comfort zone, in order to be
sure
to push yourself to do something.
Absolutely.
If you have the choice, sometimes it's difficult to go for something.
Yeah, absolutely. And at what age did you start cooking then? Actually, getting into the kitchen and start learning your cooking skills.
All I remember, I think it's very very young age. It wasn't for me. I didn't feel like I was cooking.
Okay.
What used to happen? I think my mom used to go to see her mom in the afternoon, my grandma.
Yeah.
And then I come home, and I kind of feel pickish, and I go in. I think this is one of my first memories actually. Okay. I go in the fridge, get some onions, some tomatoes. I just kind of make something, and I add some eggs, and I make shakshuka my style.
Okay.
I think that's how I remember. It's like it was the simplest way to do things. I think that's how I started.
Okay.
In the afternoon, coming out of school, and I'm at home by myself, and my brother's still at home. I just cook something very quickly.
Okay.
And then I make it in sandwich. I take it outside and eat it with my friends.
Okay. Amazing. And then the passion and I guess the love developed.
This is the first time I thought about this.
Okay.
For like 40 years.
Wow,
I
amazing.
swear.
Amazing. The passion's coming out.
Wow.
So then I know you came to London when you were 22.
18.
Oh, 18 was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was a holiday, a short holiday you're looking for initially.
I just came on a holiday with a friend, I got my A-levels, baccalaureate.
Yeah.
About to go to university. And we said, let's go somewhere. Why not London?
Yeah.
Just came, no plans, nowhere to go. You couldn't, we just came as two teenagers, just turned 18,
Yeah.
And and I fell in love with London.
Yeah. And you never went back, or like what made you, or what inspired you to
London.
Stay in London? Just
London.
Okay.
London.
Yeah.
There's so much in London that I fell in love with. Everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's why London, so you can't control
Sure.
who or what you fell in love with.
Yeah.
In London in general, the people, the opportunities, made me just want to be here.
Sure.
And the fact that just, it gave me that little bit of independence.
Yeah.
Easy to work, and then.
Sure. Okay. And then tell us about your early career then in London. So what got you going in terms of?
I think in the beginning for me it was very difficult. Actually, it wasn't difficult. It was it was challenges, but at the time I didn't think they were challenges.
Yeah.
I remember the first night when we came. We didn't know anyone, and we slept the night in Victoria Station.
Wow.
And then the following day, so we can't stay in Victoria Station forever, but we can't stay in a hotel because we only have £70 in our pockets. I had £70, my friend has £70. And then we find out one of our friends from back home had a brother in London. So we called him up hoping he's going to tell us come to stay with us, which he did. But then he was staying in a squat. Yeah. So we went to a squat in North London in Manor House.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Never seen anything like that. And you live with, it was a group of Irish. Actually, they were Irish. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise you.
Yeah, it's that's how I think in the beginning it was an adventure. It was an adventure. It was a holiday, and then 32 years later,
Yeah,
I'm in London.
Still here. And did you find a job initially, or were you thinking of a business venture?
No, not at all. I think at the time I was just saying, I'm going to be a few weeks, work, make as much money as possible, buy some clothes, treat myself, and go back to Algeria to go to university. And that actually happened. I tried to stay. My mom said to me, like, she called me up, crying on the phone, Algerian mothers giving you that emotional blackmail. I went back to Algeria. I said one day, I said I went to the university the next day. I said half an hour. I went once to university, half an hour, and I went out. I said, look, that's not for me. I felt like big part of me is still in London. No, it's not big. Everything in me stayed in London. And then I went back home, told my mom, my dad, I won't go back. Obviously, they were devastated. They tried to hold me back, send me everybody to get me out of the idea. Then I said, look, guys, I've been to university once. I need to I need to go back. I think I got their blessing, and I needed permission from my dad. It took me a few weeks to get. And as soon as he got it for me, he gave me I took a flight and came to London.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think for me, that was the moment I came back. And in fact, I was so excited on the plane to land in London. And then as soon as I got out of the passport control, I was pushing my trolley as if like a huge pressure came on my shoulders. So like, wow, the challenge is not convincing your mom and dad because they send you everybody to try to get you to change your mind. The challenge is now. You are by yourself. You're going to, instead, all your friends are going to university. In 4 or 5 years, you're going to come out with a degree, diploma, doctor, engineer, pilot, whatever. What are you going to do? I think that was that moment. It's almost like in my head went inside, like, you know what? In 4 or 5 years' time, whilst your friends come out of university with a degree, I need to start my own business. And there is a split of seconds. This is my goal. In next 4 to 5 years, I need to open my own business. And I had that goal, a dream, whatever you call it, in front of me every single morning. And I pray, praise God, just give me this. That's all I need. I was dreaming and every day about it. I was praying every day, but I was putting the hours. I was putting 16, 18, whatever it takes. I used to go to all the people I used to work with. I tell them, look, if you don't want to work, if you want to take a day off, you want a holiday, whatever, call me. I'll cover you. 7 days a week, once for 2 years, I didn't take a day off. I was loving it. It was hard, but because I had that dream and I felt getting closer and closer on a daily basis.
What do you think was driving you to leave your home country, come to a big city like London with nothing essentially, where you could have stayed in university and stayed in that country? Like there was the dream of a bigger life maybe or success, but what was underneath that really pushing you along?
I think underneath that was that hunger. The hunger to do something. The dream. I think the situation I was born into, feeling that I want to do something. It's very difficult to put my finger into what it was, but I was dreaming big. At the time, having one restaurant, it was a huge dream. However, eventually, it was within me. It's difficult to say it, but it was the hunger. I was super hungry, and I felt, wow, that's so easy. I looked at it as so easy because you work, you get paid. You work, you get paid. You work 8 hours, get paid X. You work 16 hours, you get paid X. You got 18 hours, do it 7 days a week. And I think that for me, because I had a very clear goal, which I took it in a positive way, as a big dream, and I felt I was getting closer and closer to it. And I think that's what drove me.
Makes sense. You had that hunger, and
I was obsessed with it. I was I was so obsessed with it. I was doing it on daily basis. Every hour matters. If someone says to me, can you cover me? I'll go. If a manager says, the restaurant says, "Oh, it's too quiet today, and I think one of you guys want to go home," I'm the first person to say I want to stay, because that hour matters.
Sure.
Okay. Today I look back, I stay 32 years in this country, but if I look back, I was doing 70, 80 hours, 90 hours a week. That's technically 60 or years of work I put in 32 years.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I was putting the hours.
Yeah.
I never consider myself like being smart or clever. I just put in the hard work, the hard work. That's because with the hard work, the moment you keep consistent, obsessed with it, keep going, there's only one way.
Yeah, exactly.
The right door will open up.
Yeah.
And never give up. That's how it.
For sure, makes sense. Okay, so let's start about let's talk about Comptoir Libanais. And the launching of that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you had very little money in the bank. You just arrived in the country recently. How did you get the wheels turning, and how did you get it off the ground?
No, look. As I said, Comptoir wasn't the first restaurant.
Yeah.
But the idea of Comptoir was inside my head, growing and growing and growing. I knew I wanted to create something that is for everybody. A student, a nurse, a doctor, an engineer, a banker, but it's a place that everybody feels right. Very popular, simple, no protocol, a happy place. But I also wanted to do it where something very close to food I like to eat. Although I'm Algerian, I created something Lebanese. The food, Algerian food and Lebanese food is different, but the culture is similar.
Okay.
The hospitality is similar. The generosity is similar. Abundance is, And I think it started. It started with that dream of making Lebanese food and Middle Eastern food popular, and introducing it to the high street.
Okay. And then how did you, I guess, start putting flesh on that idea, and I guess the design side of things and the menu and so on?
I think, for me at least, when an idea starts, it's just an idea. And then and the more you work on it, the more it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer.
Okay.
I have in mind how I think I see it, but the more you work on it, the clearer it becomes.
Okay.
I thought about the food, the design, the atmosphere, the music, the team, the uniform, and that's how it's almost like different categories that are, each of them is very important, but you have to put them together. I think the food, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something where people share food.
Yeah.
With no protocol. I love to encourage people to eat with their hands.
Sure.
And in the middle, sharing, and it's not you have your starter, I have my starter, you have my main course, and would you like to try some of mine? There's none of that.
Sure.
You just bring food in the middle, and
so it's quite authentic.
It's how we eat it.
Yeah.
Just put the food in the middle and eat. It's like almost, it's what food does.
Yeah.
Especially our food in our culture, it brings people together.
Sure.
And that's what we like. I always wanted to do. Put food in the middle, and just eat how you like.
Sure.
And that's how I wanted to do the food. But as far as the design is concerned, I wanted to make sure it's an experience. I want people to travel with me in our restaurants.
Okay.
I wanted to almost send them on holiday for an hour or two. And in terms of design, I surrounded myself with all the memories of my childhood, of my travels, things I've seen, I smelled, I ate, and I lived, and that's how it started. Sure. And I wanted to make sure to tell a real story. Okay. When it comes back to the food, and it comes back to the design, small little music in the background to make it obviously feel like you are in wherever you are in the Middle East, in Algeria, Morocco, Lebanon, Syria, whatever. At the same time, I wanted to introduce this food for everybody. Sure. So by doing that, they eat it, but they also, if you want to make it at home, I had a small area where give them the ingredient that otherwise you can't find in Tesco, Waitrose, or Sainsbury's.
Sure.
Because that's part of the whole experience.
Okay. So you really want to transport people into the culture for that couple of hours. Let's
I
say
want to seduce them with our culture.
Yeah. Sure.
Seduce them with our culture. Seduce them with because it's unfortunately not many people. We're not the obvious destinations for people to travel. So, and in the news, unfortunately, you get the wrong thing of our culture. So it was an opportunity for me. Almost took it as kind of a course.
Okay.
To get people to know to go to our culture through food. It's almost get them closer through the food, because we have one of the most beautiful, the most generous, the most hospitable cultures. Sure. If you go to anyone's home in Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, all over the Middle East, Lebanon, the first thing you get is the food. Okay. You get the kiss, you get the hug, and you get the food.
Nice.
And you know what? You don't get the food, you get force fed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, even if you just had lunch.
Yeah.
If you had lunch with someone, take you to his home, it still gives you food.
Sure.
That's how we do it.
Okay, amazing. And then in terms of developing the menu, so obviously you're taking in authentic dishes into the UK. Because you were one of the first or the first to do it in this way, were you conscious of the market and maybe they wouldn't take to this type of food? Or did you adopt it at all in the early stages? Or
no, I wasn't worried about that at all, because I know we have so many varieties.
Okay.
The repertoire, if you take Lebanese food, is very close to Syrian food, Middle Eastern food, but at the same time, I have few of whatever some of influence of Algerian food, some Moroccan food. I know the repertoire is so huge that part of that huge repertoire, so much you can just take and put on a table, and you don't need to change anything.
Okay.
And people get it.
Okay.
It's I think once someone tries, Lebanese or Middle Eastern food or North African food,
sure,
when it's done well, you don't need to understand it. You just get it straight away.
It's good food.
It's good food. It's healthy. It's fresh. It's if you're vegan, you are in cloud nine.
Yeah.
Vegetarians. It's food for everybody.
Sure.
So and I wasn't worried about the food. I think the food was just give it to them.
Yeah.
When you get a dish with so many fresh ingredients, extra virgin olive oil, a bit of mint, a bit of pomegranates, and the colors, and the smells and the flavors.
Yeah.
It's
going to satisfy anybody.
It really. For me, it was no brainer. Yeah. Except there was not many people doing it.
Okay. Interesting. And have your menus evolved then over the last couple of decades or so? Have they changed with the markets and times? And you mentioned vegan.
Everything evolves.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not just the menu. The menu, the design, our attitude, because you have to keep evolving all the time. You cannot stop still.
Okay. Interesting. Makes sense completely. And have you introduced more vegan dishes kind of over the last few years?
I did not have to introduce vegan dishes. Vegan dishes were there.
Yeah.
And a lot of restaurants nowadays, they bring on vegan dishes in order to satisfy a vegan or plant-based or vegetarian. We don't have to do that. We have it there.
Yeah.
A lot of people, because maybe they don't know this, they go to just eat meat. Meat is very important in our culture.
Sure.
However, the vegan dishes, vegetarian dishes are probably you have more choice on the vegan and vegetarian than the meat dishes. So we didn't, it was a natural thing. In fact, a lot of restaurants nowadays, they put hummus on the menu, you put falafel, they put halloumi, they put wow, I love it, because this is how we get to more and more people to know about our food.
Sure.
You get an American diner, put in halloumi or put in hummus, wow. You put Nando's, they have hummus.
Sure.
This is good for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of, obviously, you've grown so much over the last few years. You've 27 restaurants now?
Yeah.
More, yeah. So in terms of maintaining consistency, and I want to get into the staffing side of things, the people side of things, in particular chefs, I would think, considering the standard of your food as well. How have you seen that, I guess, evolve and change over the last couple of decades in terms of getting the people, keeping them, and just maintaining those consistencies, really?
Look, consistency is very important in any business, in every business. And restaurant business is one of the hardest because on daily basis, you make the food fresh.
Yeah.
It's not like in fashion, you cut the cloth by machine and you know exactly that is different.
Sure.
It's, you don't use machinery, use people. It is the team. You have to make sure you have the right team, passionate team, but it's down to us. Training is very important.
Sure.
And consistency is super, super important for any business. And there's a lot of challenges. Our industry alone is very challenging to keep people in the industry because people they don't take it as a career.
Sure.
And come the pandemics, they make it even worse.
Sure.
And also the Brexit, not just pandemics.
Sure. Sure.
I think the biggest, we see the knock-on effect of the Brexit.
Sure.
We're struggling for people, and then come the pandemic, and then.
Absolutely.
Now I know a lot of restaurants that they haven't opened up because of shortage of staff.
Sure. How do you see it changing, or do you see it changing in the future? Or how do we attract more people into the industry?
Honestly, it's super, super, super hard because the restaurant industry is seen as it's changed in the last few years.
Yeah.
But originally, it was only people that come to this country, they couldn't speak the language, they didn't have choice, and they just get into it. They get in by accident, then they fell in love with it. Yeah. They discover what the restaurant industry has to offer, and then they stick by it. And now more and more you have, British people work in the restaurants.
Yeah.
But we rely so much on people coming from abroad.
Sure.
And now with Brexit and the pandemic's making it hard, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody.
Sure. Potentially, well, I guess they'll have to ease visa regulations, I would say, but maybe technology and automation.
Yeah, and it's very challenging, really, really challenging. It's not for us, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's because restaurants seen as the latest thing that people, the last job they want to do.
Sure.
And that's how they,
sure.
That's how the immigrants, whoever comes to the country, works in restaurants.
Sure.
And because it's not important for the government to get the restaurants, they're more interested in taking teachers, and so they don't pay attention to our industry.
Yeah.
I think we're suffering from it. Yeah. Restaurants and hotels are suffering big time.
Yeah, sure. And like you said, it's not just our sector; it's so many different sectors.
Oh, so many different sectors are suffering from it. But my opinion, is the effect of Brexit. So, is it going to get better? We hope it's going to get better. It has to get better.
It has to. Yeah.
It's not a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I just want to touch on locations, because obviously you've got quite a few sites now, and obviously just considering the range of different demographics, even in London as an example, do you have a structured approach to choosing your locations, or how do you decide what would work for a Comptoir Libanais or any other concept?
I think first of all, it's location.
Yeah.
When you say location, it has a meaning. It means footfall.
Okay.
We look at footfall, first of all.
Yeah.
Is that footfall 7 days? Is it morning, lunch, and evening? And then there's another aspect. I walk into the space. I said, do I feel the space? I can go in the space. It's almost like you feel it. It's like you buying a home.
Okay.
How, the energy you get from it. Can I create that little experience in there? And that's how we do. But footfall is super important.
Okay.
Of course, footfall, and then make sure that the rent is realistic, because you can have the best location in the world, the highest footfall.
Yeah.
But if the rent is super expensive, are you going to make money from it? Because at the end of the day, everything, it's about the numbers has to add up.
Sure. And when you're in that space, are you like visualizing the restaurant and
very much so?
Okay.
I visualize the space straight away. I visualize the colors. I visualize the atmosphere. I visualize how the customers are there. How our team is in the kitchen cooking and shouting, and the waiters walking around, the barman making the drinks. That's how I visualize it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I visualize people from the outside looking inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So it really is a feeling coming.
It's a feeling, but that you have to. For me, it's like
really.
it's exactly like food.
Yeah.
When I create a dish.
Yeah.
And I like to think our food is authentic. But at the same time, I bring a lot. I make new dishes. I create new dishes, which are different from what you would have seen in a Middle Eastern home, or an Algerian home, or a Lebanese home, or a restaurant. But what I do, I take all those ingredients, I put them together, different.
Okay.
But in my mind, I know what tahina tastes like. I know what aubergine tastes like.
Sure.
I know what garlic. And then what I do, in my mind, I know how to cook them. I know how to put them together. I know exactly how it's going to taste.
Sure.
I know how to present it. And then I create. It's the same. You have to feel it from within, and then you bring it out.
Sure.
So when I do a new restaurant, I know exactly how it's going to look. When I create a new dish, I know exactly how it's going to taste.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. And you've obviously had other concepts as well. So you launched Levant, Levantine, Kenza. What inspired you and also drove you was you had obviously Comptoir Libanais and you had success of different concepts.
I just want to, I think the first is Levant.
Yes.
Started with Levant. Levant is very much, it's an experience. It's like, it's a place where you can go and really you traveled far. Somewhere you end up somewhere in Marrakesh or in Damascus or in Beirut or in Istanbul, in Algeria. It's a place where you have the design, you have the cocktails, you have the food, you have the entertainment. It transports you for a night.
Yeah.
And it's a place I know until today. Levant was open 21 years ago. I promise you, I meet someone, so my God, I had so many memories. I met my wife there. I met my my first date there. I had so many experiences there. And that's how it started. And then eventually I opened Kenza, which is similar in the city. Yeah. And then I created Comptoir, that is something that is very casual and for everybody. Sure. But I also have another concept we created. It's called Shawa. Shawa is shawarma. It's very close. I love a kebab. Yeah. And that's something that I really, really want to get people to introduce to people. And I want to make sure it's how healthy it is, how delicious it is. And I want to do to shawarma, to introduce people to shawarma same way as they eat burgers. That's how I like to.
Okay. What do you see as the challenges to that? Maybe because we were speaking earlier about the perception of kebabs, and maybe it's a 3 a.m. kind of dish.
Yeah, the perception of kebab is, we all know it. People think eating a kebab is the food of 3 o'clock in the morning after clubbing and hangover or whatever. It's actually not. Yeah. If you had a very good, how shawarma should be, breast of chicken or, marinated lamb shoulder. Sure. Freshly cut with delicious garlic sauce or tahina sauce or harissa sauce with freshly cut salad. Sure. And with the thinnest bread. It's healthy. When I used to run for my ultra 250-kilometer marathons in the desert, I was actually for 6 months prior to the marathon, I used to eat that on a daily basis. It's protein. Sure. It's salad. It's fresh. It's healthy. And unfortunately, we started in the wrong kind of side. People think it's not healthy, but in fact, if you have a good one, it's actually very good for you. Sure. And I think I just wanted to help and change that perception. Okay. Yeah, it would take time like anything else, but...
Sure. I'm sold anyway, Tony, for sure. Sounds amazing. I'm sure there's a lot of other ideas in there for concepts. I can see it.
Yeah, there's always a lot of ideas, but we need to be realistic where, you have to focus a lot on... everything we've done is within Middle Eastern food, so I didn't try to get...
Sure. How do you manage your time? And I guess your role has changed over the years from being super, super hands-on early days. Mm-hmm. And now obviously you're writing cookbooks, you're developing the business at a high level. Mm-hmm. How have you transitioned into that different role? And what do you do at this? What are you focusing on at the moment?
I think obviously with time I realized where my strength is, where things are really, it's not quite my strength. Yeah. And you need to surround yourself with a team. You need to have a very, very good team. Blessed to have a good partner. Surround yourself by the right people. And then you can, a team is very, very important.
Sure.
I know we're talking to each other now.
Yeah.
I'm not talking, I'm sharing my story.
Yeah.
But in terms of everything about work, it's actually a teamwork. There's a half of whatever I'm saying on behalf of my team, on behalf of me. Sure. It's not, I speak for the team.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important. You can't do it without the team.
Sure.
And then eventually you see what you do yourself and see what someone else does, and then you work together.
Sure.
Yeah. And for me, it's like I feel, in a way, I have what I'm doing. I'm still looking at, working with our executive chefs about creating new dishes. How about this? Comes up with new ideas. Let's try this, let's try that. When it comes back to the design, it's still I'm doing that all the time.
Sure. Because
it's very difficult to tell a designer what to do, what I lived. So, things like that, but we still work. It's a teamwork. Any business, or even, it doesn't matter. Even what you think, a singer or an artist or whatever, it still has his team.
Sure.
It's, I don't want to, people to think that when someone does something, it's a one-man show. There's no such thing as a one-man show.
Yeah.
It's a team.
Absolutely.
There's nobody in this world that created something and made a success without a team.
Sure.
Although for me, I still feel like I just started.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I genuinely feel that I'm still 22. I feel like I'm hungry.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. What about your books? So you've had 3 very successful books.
We had 3 cookbooks.
Yeah.
Which was the idea. Was born in my head for a while, because a lot of people say, what's the recipe for this? What's the recipe for that? And how do I make it? I thought, in the beginning, you give them the recipe. Says maybe it's one way to get people to understand our food, our culture. I enjoy doing the books. However, it was challenging because that's not what I do.
Sure.
I'm not a writer. I'm not an author by nature. I'm a guy that who most of his life, went to school, but I was on the street. Everything I learned was on the street.
Yeah, sure.
I get referred as the street boy. Sure. Back home, my nickname, the wolf. Because I was always hustling. Okay. I learned everything on the street. But luckily, I have a very good friend of mine, Dan Leppard, who I've known for so many years. And then I turned to him. I called him up, said, Dan, I need help. I need to do books. And he held my hand. And I have another friend of mine, eventually, Nicolas Ibizon, who helped me with her advice. So you need people around. You always need. You need. It's unbelievable. Early days, I didn't think it was normal to ask people about ideas. I wasn't shy. The idea wasn't, maybe because I was 18, I was 22 when I opened my first restaurant. I thought in my head, I know everything.
Sure.
But it took me a while to start opening up, calling people and say, what, I need some help. And I'm 51 years old today. And now I feel like I can pick up phone to someone. I says, I'm really struggling with this. I need help.
Okay.
So that's not something I did when I was younger.
Sure.
Because at the time you have that kind of naivety, thinking I know everything.
Yeah.
But now I have so much more experience, and I say, what? I feel today, at 51, I know less than I felt when I was 22 years old.
I think it's also security and confidence in yourself as well. To be confident in knowing what you do know, or be confident in your own skill set.
And I think, to be honest, when I was probably more confident when I was 22.
Yeah.
With that naivety, with just hunger and just go for it. Then I'm still obviously confident. That's not what I'm saying. But at that time, you just go for it. You don't think.
Sure. And you mentioned earlier as well that, and it's pretty clear that you're always pushing yourself and moving out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I guess if you do that with the right people around you, you're kind of going in the right direction.
No, you need people.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you need the right people. For me, my team I feel like it's a family.
Sure.
It's my family.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I have family at home, a family at work, but for me, it's one. My life is all about my work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one family.
Okay. So what does the future hold then, Tony? If you're to look ahead maybe 10 years for Comptoir and yourself?
Now, obviously, as I said, Shawa has a huge part of my future plans. So is Comptoir.
Yeah.
We want to spread the love of Lebanese food, flavors of Lebanon. Also, I want to make sure that shawarma get eaten, and I love to see one day,
becoming mainstream.
Shawarma shop in many corners of London.
Yeah.
But I have other ideas which die to share with you and with the world.
Yeah.
But I have to hold horses and.
Okay, one step at a time.
One step at a time, but when the time is right,
Sure. Okay, I can see it for sure. The determination's still there. The energy's still there.
As much as when I was 18 or when I was 22, I have so much energy.
Sure.
And I think this is due to how it took me a long time to make sure that my hunger, my passion, everything, keep that desire alive. Sure. And now I feel like that desire is much more than it was. That's how I feel. It's because I think there's one thing, especially with the pandemic, what's been happening. You start thinking about everything you're doing. It starts from one thing. It starts within.
Yes.
And self-care.
Sure.
Self-care is super important.
Sure.
And I learned a lot more. I've always been someone who did activities, a lot of marathons. Now I do it more and more. I eat super healthy.
Okay.
I train for one thing, to look like, an athlete. No, I train first and foremost for my head.
Yeah.
And I eat healthy because I've learned a lot. You don't think about it when you're 20.
Yeah.
But eventually you realize you are what you eat.
Sure.
I love sweet. I love carbs. I love everything about food. But I had carbs and sweets had no effect on me, on my mental health, on my mind, and on my energy. So now I think there's one thing I focus on, because that gives me all the energy I need for the next 40, 50 years, 60 years, however long.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So you've been on an amazing journey, Tony, and it's super inspirational.
I enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's a journey with I wouldn't put. It's just a journey.
Sure.
I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
And the pleasure is in that.
I don't want to end that journey.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a goal that stops.
Sure. Makes sense. So if there was one thing now looking back, let's say speaking to your 18 or 22-year-old self, is there something you would tell that Tony, or to guide him in a different way, or just follow the same process?
It's very difficult to say that, because only when I was thinking about it, how do you tell a 22-year-old what to do? If I'm speaking about myself, at that age I was so naive. With that naivety I was stubborn. In my mind I thought I know everything. I was living by myself, so I didn't have to ask my dad or my mom or anybody what to do.
Sure.
You thought you know it all. But what helped me, you had that hunger and drive and that determination, obsession to do something. And I was kept going and going and going. But today, I think for me, it's very difficult to look back and advise my 22-year-old self. Personally, I wouldn't change anything, because I made so many mistakes along the way. But those mistakes, I used to look at them, I made this mistake. And now, today, I feel blessed I made those mistakes, because with these mistakes, it made me who I am. Because along the way, last 30 years, people only see you. Look at this as success. Look at this as success. Look at what Tony's done. I don't see it as success. I see it as part of the process. But what people don't see is how many times you were down, and you have to pick yourself up. Every time I go down, I pick myself up. Every time, because I don't have I know the choice. I just want to keep going and going and going.
Sure.
So for me, I don't see it as a success. I see it as a journey.
Sure.
And I don't know, that get down 20 times, get up 21 times. For me, it's a fight. You have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy the adventure. You have to enjoy the journey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Super inspirational, Tony.
And I feel very blessed. I'm doing something that I truly, truly love. Because when you do something you truly love, it doesn't feel like work.
Absolutely.
It really does not feel like work.
Yeah.
And, I'm always putting myself out of my comfort zone. That's how I do better.
Okay. Amazing. It's fantastic. Well, thanks very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
It's super, super inspirational.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to sit down with you.
No, the pleasure is mine.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Right.